So today I thought we'd do something fun and go through a patient case. I think it's so important sometimes to see other people's stories to then be able to bring it into our own world and see what changes we can make for our health as well. The reason why I wanted to do that too was because oftentimes we feel like we have to make these huge changes, 180-degree shifts, overhaul everything in order to see improvements for our health. This is such a great example of the power of small steps in getting to where you want to be. So let's get started. Kay has been a patient of mine for a number of years. In fact, I think she was one of my first patients in the first few years of my practice. The thing about Kay is I know that she's motivated for her health, but as many of us do, we go through many different shifts and changes in our life, and sometimes that impacts how we're able to take care of ourselves. So just earlier this year, we actually had a follow-up where she wanted to really tackle a few things that she'd left on the back burner. And one of those things was her energy level as well as her recent diagnosis of osteoporosis. So today I wanted to discuss 3 changes that we made for her that actually helped with addressing both of those things, helped get her to feel more energy within a couple weeks' time, but also that really matter in terms of her future health as well. And they weren't difficult things to input into her daily habit. It was something that she actually felt like she could do and she could stick with as well. The first thing that we did was actually look at her diet. And when we looked at her diet, we changed one critical thing, and that was to increase her protein intake. That actually meant that we had to calculate how much protein she should get. Because she has osteoporosis and she's on medications for that, we had to ensure that she was getting enough protein for that particular reason. For someone like her who has osteoporosis, you really do have to increase your protein intake. So for example, a person without a bone health concern might be able to have 1 gram per kilogram per day of protein. But if you do have bone health concerns, that means that you have to increase your protein intake to at least 1.2 to even 1.5 grams per kilogram per day. So we worked on that with her, setting a specific protein goal for the day. The other thing we did with that was actually we looked at her meals and we looked at places where we could start bringing in more protein in her diet as well. She was really good at bringing in veggies and some fruits in there, but in terms of getting that protein amount, I think it's one of the toughest things. Most people actually end up getting most of their protein at dinner time and very little protein at breakfast, and so we had to ensure that she was getting at least that 25 to 30 grams of protein at breakfast time, a good amount at lunchtime or with some of the snacks that she was having, as well as dinner. For her specifically is she doesn't eat a ton of meat and she is more vegetarian in nature, and so trying to bring in some elements that aligned with what she wanted to do for herself and what she liked was also something that we worked on. In terms of protein, what we do know is it's really important for energy levels as well. While we were working on getting enough for osteoporosis concerns, we were also thinking about the fact that it's a slow burning, long lasting fuel for your body. And so getting enough protein means that her energy levels were going to be able to be leveled out throughout the day rather than having more of these spikes and then these dips that really make you feel so tired sometimes that you want to go take a nap or you feel like you just can't go on throughout the day. Those energy level spikes and drops really have a ton to do with our diet and how we're eating, what we're including, and again, protein being a big important part of that. One big thing that I usually do with my patients when we have to increase their protein intake is actually think about protein powders. So something like a smoothie, for example. We just ensured that she had a nutrient-dense protein smoothie for the morning, and that we also brought in a lot of different elements within that smoothie. So it's not just a protein powder that's bringing in the protein, but that there's other seeds, nuts, for example, that can also help us do that. The second thing that we did also was actually take a look at how much movement she was getting throughout the day. And that included how much exercise she was getting. If you're like Kay, you're also one of those people who really need to be involved in something, maybe a class or a gym, for you to start feeling like you can actually stay on track. And so for her, it was joining a gym again, making sure that she was going in a few times during the week to help her get that movement in and that exercise in. We also talked about bone health type related exercises, so strength exercises being really important for her specifically. And that was something that she felt like she could apply into her every week schedule. The third thing that we worked on was something that she was doing because she felt like it was helping her de-stress, but also helping her relax, and maybe it was helping her sleep because of just the impacts that it had. That was to actually decrease or avoid alcohol altogether until our next follow-up. The reason we did that was because alcohol oftentimes can actually act more like a stimulant. Yes, it can help you relax, but later on when you're trying to sleep, it can actually reduce your sleep quality, make it easier for you to wake up in the middle of the night. and also just muck up your system in so many different ways. More inflammation internally. We know that there's increased risk for many different types of cancers. So we actually took out the alcohol altogether. Fast forward to a few weeks later, and she comes into the follow-up, and not only is her energy feeling so much better than before, she feels like she's back on track. She's working out. She's getting more of that protein in her diet. She's just feeling overall really great and able to do more of the things that she's been wanting to do. But she's also mentioning the fact that she was really worried about taking alcohol out of her weekly routine. It surprised her to see that she actually wasn't missing it too much at all. In fact, she felt better now that she wasn't drinking alcohol and that she had come off of it than she did when she was drinking it. The whole fear around, well, I'm scared because I feel like I need it every now and then to relax, or the hesitation around how she might do without it, was completely dissolved when she realized that she actually felt better. She could do it. She wasn't missing it at all. And she knew that she could have it every now and then. And it also meant that she wasn't getting many hot flashes. She was getting better sleep. And she just felt better overall and really in control of her life and her health again, which is the most important part. So here's another reminder that if you feel like, well, I can't get started right now because I can't do this and I can't change that, and there's limitations on everything that I can do, get started on the small things. Work on getting enough protein, for example. Work on adding just a few more veggies into your diet. Work on getting a few more steps into your day. Work on getting to bed a little bit earlier. And we don't always have to do all of this at the same time. In fact, what I find is it really depends on your personality. If you're the type of person that likes to do that sort of likes to make bigger changes all at the same time, and that feels more motivating for you and it gets you to stay on track a little bit better, great. If you're not that person and you're one of those people who just want to bring in small bits at a time or small changes, focus on one thing, get in the habit of doing that, and then shift to something else, then do those things. Know that making those small changes actually really do matter. They do add up. And within just a few days, you could start feeling better. Just because you're making small changes doesn't actually mean that it's going to take forever to start feeling better. It can still matter if you're making the right types of changes for yourself. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.